Hi, I'm Chris Gonzalez, and today I'm going to go out on the golf cart with Michael Monroe. He's the Director of Asset Management here at Eastmark. And I just want to ask him some different questions because I ask him questions all the time about the landscaping and the water and all the different things that we're doing. And he's just a wealth of information. And so I wanted to share that with the rest of the Eastmark community so you can know how he and his team are, what they're doing to help maintain the beauty and the value of the Eastmark community. Hey, Michael, can you talk to us about between the sidewalk and the curb, what's happening here in
Okay,
Eastmark?
be glad to. And these parkway strips, we call them, the resident owns this little piece of land here behind the curb back to their house. But what the association has is an easement, which allows us to, before even the house is built, we install these trees and our irrigation lines, and it allows us to come back later and to continue to service the trees.
Okay, so the irrigation, there's both the resident has irrigation
Mhm.
and then the ERA also has an irrigation line for just the trees.
Sure do. And in most cases, our irrigation is a little bit different. You see right here, this is a drip emitter, and that's for the residence plant right here. But these bigger kind of round tubes you see in the back are actually bubblers that are a couple feet deep. And that's in an effort to help get the water down to the roots of the trees.
So even though you might not see your association tree being watered, you might not see it up on the ground. It might be because it's down a couple feet.
Yep. And that's our goal, is to always have the water going down so that the roots will go down and establish and get really strong and support the tree.
Now, talk to me about these stakes.
Sure. So we kind of talk about the stakes kind of like they're sort of like training wheels for a bike. And so when someone's learning to ride their bike, those training wheels help a lot. But just like this tree, we want to keep it so that it doesn't blow over or harm the tree, but we want the tree to move because that helps, again, to establish the roots from that movement. And then we keep the stakes on here, um, generally a year and a half. But really what we're looking at is once the caliper of the tree here is close to the size of the stake, then we can really take those stakes off at any time. And that's something that we do for the resident. The resident doesn't have to worry about it at all. And we'll come and remove these stakes when they need it.
Very good. And then if you notice that your tree starts to need to be pruned or something, so is it the resident's responsibility to prune, take care of the trees?
No, it's actually the associations. And, the developers, the builders had a vision to have all these beautiful tree-lined streets that beautify in front of the house, but also provide shade to help lower temperatures. Another issue is a lot of times residents don't see the water coming out of the bubblers or the trees actually getting watered. So they want to do the right thing in their mind and add some additional water. But actually, the way the bubblers work, like we said, you don't often see the water. And so a lot of times we have trees that are struggling, and it's because they're actually getting too much water. And too much water can be just as harmful as not enough water. So we try to keep a good balance, obviously, with the bubblers, and just ask residents if they have concerns about whether the tree is getting enough water, again, to please call us. We'll come check the moisture of the soil and those things and let you know and let the resident know and make any adjustments if they are needed.
So Michael, on these parkway zone trees, what are some of the primary things you'd ask residents not to do? And then what should they do?
Sure. We'd ask them not to ever really trim or prune the trees. That's something that we're happy to do. And, I like to tell residents that we want to make this as easy as possible for you. So if you ever have a concern with your tree, anything at all, you think maybe it needs pruned or the canopy elevated or you're worried about the water, please send us a CCF form and we'll be happy to come out and look at the tree and take care of whatever issue there is.
So just go on the resident website, fill out a community concern form, and you and your team will
Yep.
get the landscapers out to look at it.
And our crews are pretty good they have door hangers. So if they come, a lot of times it has check boxes on it. So they'll leave a door hanger that says, you know, replace stakes or, pruned up the tree, whatever's needed.
Michael, can you talk to us about the landscaping philosophy that you guys have?
Sure thing. We practice sustainable landscape maintenance here. And the whole idea behind that is that we try to let the plant grow throughout most of the year. And we do one main renovation cut kind of at the start of the spring. And so you see here, these are bluebells and they've got nice branches. They're not rounded off like sometimes you see. And so on each of these individual branches, you're getting all these blossoms.
Uh-huh.
And that's what we're trying to accomplish here is to not cut the tree or cut the plant, prune it very much so that it grows. That actually helps it to not have to recuperate and use so much water.
Mm.
And then it's just healthier for the plant. And then, like I said, the less we prune it, if it's just that one main pruning, and in some cases, like those plants back there, we might need to come and move them away from the curb or something.
Mhm.
But we just like to get as much color as we can from all these beautiful plants. Here's some orange jubilee, and these are some Texas yellow bells. And you can see they just provide lots of color. And we've had hummingbirds flying around us here, and they love it too.
Now, I know a lot of times people are thinking, "Hey, I want" what do you call them? Like,
Kind of beach balls and beer cans.
yeah, like, I want everything pruned very why do we not do that? What's the downside?
Well, it's just not as healthy for the plant, but it requires a whole lot more maintenance. And so if you're trying to keep them just those round shapes or cylinder shapes, then you have to constantly come back and trim them up because they'll start to sprout out. Whereas this way, it just grows naturally throughout the year. And it's just a much better way. Some residents wonder why we don't trim every plant or every shrub every time we come. And that's because we're trying to accomplish that goal of having something blooming in each park as often as possible throughout the year. And we just kind of trim them and prune the ones that really need it. But otherwise, in a situation like this, we try to just let them grow and be healthy.
Very good. Michael, how many neighborhood pocket parks do we have?
We have 74 of the neighborhood parks.
74 parks, and each of them is unique. A
Sure.
different blend of amenities and landscape. We're here at Sector Point, and I noticed these 4 different garden beds. Tell us about these.
Sure. These are a nice feature that were put in. They're actually meant to be a community garden for residents' use.
Hmm.
And I don't know that a lot of residents know that. We try to periodically let people know, but each of them have irrigation to them. They have some little drip lines. So if a resident would like to come and plant something in it, they can just let us know and we can prep the bed. But in the meantime, to just not have them sit empty and just be bare dirt, we plant these potato vines because they grow pretty lush. And so we've got some green and some purple mixed together.
All right, Michael, we have, I think 24 of these fire pits, not just these, but all different kinds of fire pits here in the community. Tell us a little bit about how to use them and any difficulties there are with them.
So the way that they work, they've been set up, is that the window to use them is 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. every day. Otherwise, outside of that window, they don't operate. And the way that they're controlled is by a keypad over here. And so residents can get that easily off the association website. In fact, if they want to, they can actually, there's a little plaque that also tells them the hours and those things, and with a QR code, and they can actually scan that, and that'll take them directly to the code, and they can put it in the keypad. And so they run for 15 minutes, and then they turn off, and you have to turn them back on. But yeah, from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. daily, they're on.
I know that these unfortunately get a lot of more vandalism than some other aspects in the community. How did that happen?
Chris, I just think it's tempting because there's an open flame, and the kids just want to grab a stick or something and put it in the fire. And we get that. That's going to happen. Sometimes it goes more than that. They'll take things like sticks and they'll jam them into the gas holes to block them, or they'll even sometimes take a rock and break like the igniters right there. And the other thing, we know that people sometimes get frustrated that the window is 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. and they might not even know that. So they come to use it and they're pushing the keypad and it won't turn on because it's not within that window. And so they get frustrated. Sometimes they'll take a rock or something and hit the keypad buttons or the keypad itself. And we have to replace those frequently because they've been vandalized.
So we have 74 neighborhood parks spread out throughout Eastmark. Ideally, almost every home either opens up to a park or is within a short walk of one of these parks, but every one is different. None of them are just cookie cutter off the shelf. They're all put together in different ways. As we look at this one, tell us just as you look here, what's unique about this park?
Some of the features do repeat themselves. Like this Ramada, you'll see a few more times in the community, but you're right. It's placed it in a different place within the park. with different landscape around it. And it's really just an awesome feature. It's pretty unique architecturally, and they've really held up well. Not just the rusted metal look, but the shades have been really, really, they've lasted a long time, and which is great. That's what we want is to.
And these shades they're not just square or rectangle, they're unique shapes, which I imagine when you do have to replace them, it's more expensive.
It does. It makes them custom, and so we have to order that specific shape and that size. But yeah, they look great, and the residents really, really enjoy using the shaded areas of the Ramada.
We're here at hole 2 of the 18-hole disc golf course. Michael, tell us about this course.
The idea was to add another amenity to Eastmark, and so instead of this just being a drainage channel, it was landscaped, and it has a full 18 holes of golf. It's open 365 days a year, anytime, really dusk to dawn. Residents can come out and play disc golf, or if they just want to walk or jog the path, there's benches along the way. There's even a couple ramadas, and it's an awesome thing. We just want to remind people though that it does function as a water drainage channel. So during the times that we get a rain event, there may be a little creek flowing through here, but it usually only lasts a couple days, and we like it because it helps us save a little more money on water.
We're here in Inspirion. This is one of the areas here where the association maintains the front landscaping. So some residents might not know, but we have two landscapers, contracts with two landscapers, DLC, who does the majority of Eastmark and most of the parks, and then Stillwater that does some of these front yard landscapes. Talk to us about what they do here and the philosophy of it.
Sure. All of these houses have, their individual landscape, but it varies from yard to yard. There's a whole big variety of plants that are used, but they come in on a rotational schedule, and they will trim these shrubs and these plants, and they'll blow out the yard, get all the leaves or whatever plant debris that has come in, and they'll clean them up. And so they do that pretty quickly, and they move down the street, just kind of tidying everything up. We get asked quite a bit, why don't they trim every plant when they come? And the idea is that you can see that the lantanas are blooming right now, and not much else in this yard. So if we came and we trimmed those off, you'd have nothing blooming. And so we try to let them grow again naturally, sustainably, but just add some color and variety to the front yards.
Michael, in these special service areas, how often does Stillwater come through?
They're working on a 4-week rotation. So they'll come through every area to do plant pruning and trimming. They do police each area, weekly. So they'll drive through, but they won't really be doing much to the yard except that once a month trip. And we get asked quite a bit, like, hey, something's overgrown in my yard, or maybe it's, it doesn't match the other stuff. We intentionally try not to trim every plant or shrub when we come, just some of them. We want to keep some of them, a little more full, and we want to keep them blooming if we can, and it adds that kind of variety and, to the front yard. We do have some residents that really want them to get really big and overgrown, and we can't really accommodate that. And others kind of want everything cut real short and close to the ground. And that's kind of, not what we're trying to achieve either. We're trying to keep it so it's just symmetrical and looking good and green and adding some variety to the front yards.
Michael, I think everybody in Arizona knows water is an issue. And it seems like over the coming years and decades, it's only going to become more of an issue. It's a limited resource. And so we have to be really intentional with how we use our water. Can you talk a little bit about what Eastmark has done historically, how it was built, all the way up to what you're doing now to monitor water and conserve it?
Sure thing. Yeah, that really is a key issue these days is water just scarce. It's getting more and more expensive all the time. But yeah, Eastmark was developed with water conservation in mind. One of the things that was used was smart irrigation controllers, and they have sensors in them. They also have the ability for us to control them, not just there at the unit, but through different devices like laptops and cell phones and tablets. And that's been great because if even if we have a leak somewhere, if we get notified or we see it, we can shut off the water just to that specific area
Mm.
until we can come back the next day, or if it's on the weekend, come back on Monday and make a repair. But, as you know, we have our landscape committee. They're very involved, very interested in water conservation and keeping the parks beautiful. They started to ask questions about different alternatives to just regular Bermuda turf. And so we talked to them about two that we thought were favorable and are kind of starting to be used in some parts of the valley. We didn't know how they would. There's not a lot of research or information on how they thrive in and shade. So we actually identified a spot here, Chris, that we could do a couple test plots next to another plot of our typical Bermuda. And so these are Carapia and Dichondra, and they are planted just mid this summer, and they're starting to thicken and come
Yeah.
in pretty good.
I know they're both greener than and looking better than the Bermuda down there.
They are, and so they'll stay greener, through the winter season, and they do use, they take a similar amount of water to establish, but then once established, they have a lot deeper roots than Bermuda, and so they'll take less water to keep them, growing and thriving than compared to just regular Bermuda.
Hmm. Talk about overseeding for a second. How do you think about doing overseeding? What kind of water does that consume? And
Sure.
what's Eastmark's strategy?
I love overseeding because the ryegrass comes in so lush and it's a beautiful color of green and it makes the parks just look, awesome all winter long, just like a green carpet out there. But again, the reality is that with the scarcity of water and the cost that's coming up, and I should say too that you know, the state of Arizona has had different management plans.
Mm.
And as of January 1st of 2025, we entered the fifth management plan, which required us and all communities that have over 10 acres of turf, and we have 60, to do at least a 10% reduction in the amount of water we use. And so a few years ago, to kind of prepare for this, we implemented a plan and approved by the board to start alternating parks and to basically overseed about half the parks each year and rotate them. And besides saving the water that year when it's not watered, there are other benefits. It does actually benefit the soil and allow the soil to recharge when it's not overseeded every single year. But yeah, a good way to think about it is um, these desert areas with drip lines, they use about 1/6 of the water that a turf area does.
Huh.
And then it's even more if you add in the additional overseed time. So while it's beautiful and it's nice and we like it, it can be very costly. And it's so continuing to do our rotation of the parks that we overseed has allowed us to save money and try to get to and under that 10% reduction.